Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business strategist, and I spend a lot of my time in conversation with practitioners, coaches, and healers about the behind the scenes of their businesses. What I started noticing is that some of the most honest, important conversations about building a practice were happening quietly, one-on-one, behind the scenes, and often in isolation. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work that they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build a successful startup business. And suddenly we've been left to figure it out on our own. This podcast exists to bring those conversations forward. The dreams, the uncertainty, the highs and lows, the recalibrations, and the messy middle. My hope is that by normalizing these conversations, we can soften the stigma, feel less alone, and start closing the gaps together. Today's guest is Jaishri Hall. Jaishri is a holistic therapist and feminine embodiment mentor. She helps women become present, visible, and reclaim their true voice. Jaishri, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up to have this conversation with me.
I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Before we look behind the scenes today, can you share with us a little bit about the work that you do?
Yes. When I say I help women with their presence, visibility, and voice, in the holistic approach that I have, it's not just the mindset that's only a part of what we are. We need to pay close attention to our emotions, to the energy, and most important of all is the truth that our body holds and how we actually need to live that truth through our body from where we are to where we want to be at. Everything has to go through the body. So that's the essence of the work that I do in many different ways. And yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about the ways that you work with people?
Yes. For example, it's like we can have many tools. I use coaching, I use belly dancing, I use energy healing. And in the energy healing, like you can do energy healing without having to touch the person. But at the moment, prana cell healing, which is my own method, actually does touch certain parts of the body where the energy is stuck because it helps it move around the body, release any kind of tension, blockages that can keep us, our emotions and our physical state in a point where it's just in that survival mode. And we need to help it to feel safe so that we can move through it. Yeah, basically it's that I use the body in the healings like that. That's actually quite fast. It's like 5 minutes of a prana cell healing session, very effective to calm the nervous system down, to release stuck emotion, and to even, get back to sleep and get rid of anxiety in 5 minutes, or just feel at peace with who you are at the present moment.
Do you work mostly virtually or do you work in person?
I work both. I'm not exactly sure if I work more. I think it varies. It's like when I work in person, it's more like with more in groups. And when I work more one-to-one, it's been more online.
When you look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, what goals do you have for your work?
Okay, at the moment, I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm in the process of building a business, like a real business that has the capacity to grow and to expand, not just where I live, but there's a lot of movement involved. At the moment, I have some collaborations in Mexico and getting ready to also do some collaborations in the States and have more presence there. And even here in Spain with other female entrepreneurs and other business owners working directly in company where the people are working, where they actually need the support by offering programs for training and improving their well-being and their personal development, and also offering like retreats and things like this. So I'm in that transitioning process right now of creating that from the ground, like with strong roots, because in the end, that's what's going to hold everything together.
So when you think about that restructure or just getting that structure or business foundations in place so that you can grow and flow with a business that is set up for sustainability long term versus, let's say, one that, when we skip that really vital business foundations and strategy, we're kind of constantly pushing a boulder uphill, right? We never hit a point where we're able to really find flow because we're just trying something and there might be a little bit of movement, but it doesn't really last. And then we're trying something else. So when you think about your goal to really laying that foundation for long-term sustainability, to create a business that is a very solid business structure, what do you think it's going to take for you? What actual action steps to do that?
All right. Actually, it's very important to take care of ourselves. So it's balance. It's always balance. So you can't forget about yourself on the journey. So from the energy and the resources that become available to you, it's just about learning how to flow with them. And then new ones, they just keep showing up. And as long as you're in that growth path, consistently, not overworking yourself, but just make sure that you get the time needed for yourself every day so you can grow internally, then the results just show up. The people just start coming in. It's like the last contract that I signed, I was going to talk to her, but before I spoke, she hired a training for the association, for the business that she's in. So it's like, once you're clear and you decide and you're ready to take that step, it's already been taken. The door is already open. So it's about, when you're working like that, everything is much easier because you're not in that push. Because if you keep pushing, things start falling apart and you start falling apart and breaking up also. So it's very important to keep yourself together. And sometimes that means, okay, you need to find out what works for you. And from there, just keep that consistency. And it doesn't mean it's always going to be the same because you're always transitioning. But what works best for you from where you are right now? Being aware that's going to change, but you don't have to worry about that. When the time comes, you take care of it.
When the things do come and fall together, do you have a action plan for the things that do come together? What do you think it's going to take for you to build in those blocks that come together?
Well, I actually received lots of support because I started supporting myself. Everything changes when you start doing that. Because when you commit yourself 100% to yourself, and in my case, it began with myself. But what began with myself, it wasn't just about myself, because I feel I'm just a mirror of you and of many other women, many other entrepreneurs, many other people around the world that want to do the same thing. So not the same thing in the same way, but live your truth. Dare to live your truth. And you have to forget about what anybody else thinks. And you become your number one supporter. And it doesn't matter what your reality is looking like. You're going to make it look in a certain way because you're consistently there. And not only that, it's actually going to exceed your expectations. And things and people and the support, they just show up. It's like, that's been my experience. I've received training groups, education available to me, falling from the sky. And I know that I have this organization that is backing me up. It's not that I have only that one, but I have that one, and then I have other ones. And then from everything that I've learned before in my path, it's like, you need to do what you know. If you're not practicing what you know, then you're going to get lost. And sometimes it starts with yourself, and it's okay because you always have everything that you need to start. And if you need anything else additionally, it'll come when you're ready. It'll just show up.
In this phase of building, in this phase of entrepreneurship, what feels most unclear or uncertain?
Well, there's always uncertainty. Uncertainty is a part of life. We cannot have it all figured out. We can have our vision, our mission, but we need to be open, and we need to be open to going through that unknowingness and trusting that, okay, I don't know, but I'm just gonna keep on moving. That's all I can actually say, because nobody knows it all. Nobody has it all figured out. But just keep it in your heart and in your soul and move with your truth, and your truth will become real.
Totally, I couldn't agree more. Have there been any specific challenges or hurdles that you've run into on the practical like business building side as either, before you kind of focus on this shift and really anchored into entrepreneurship or as you've focused on this shift?
Yes, definitely. There's always something. So it's like one of my biggest ones that I realized when I had like a tough breakthrough was, with the area of finances, because from the time that I got into this path like 15, 16 years ago, it's like I discovered something and I just went all in. But then there were things that I didn't know. Like I didn't know about business because I had never studied business. I didn't know about money management because I had never studied that. So that was something like big for me. But when I saw it and when I became aware of it, then I said, okay, you just need to learn. There's always something that we're going to need to learn about. And in that specific area that may apply to many women, also men, is learning to receive. Because many of us, especially when we've been like a lot in our masculine energy, or we felt alone, like we've had to do it all, that is it can be useful to a certain point, but it comes to a point where we need to balance that energy out, and we need to learn to just allow ourselves to be supported, to learn to receive in many different ways. Because you might think, okay, I need money. You don't need money. The money comes. You need to learn how to receive and understand that it's not really about the money. It's about the opportunity. Because what is the money going to get you? Sometimes you can get it without going through the money. So a lot of people get stuck in that. And I've had so many experiences in my life around that area when I just wanted something and it just showed up, and I didn't have the money, but what I wanted was available to me. So working through that abundance mindset and understanding that it's not all about money. Money is important, of course, especially when you're trying to run a business. You need to learn about money management and finances and investing and how to make your money grow for you. That's, of course, very important. But keeping an open mind, and that's part of the most crucial thing that is needed to be developed as an entrepreneur, and even if you don't have a business. If you have an abundant mindset, if you're connected with abundance, you can do anything, because when that little voice starts speaking, there's something that you've already trained, and you know that you are abundant. You are part of nature, and nature is abundant. It's not limited in any way.
So much of what you said brings up something that's so important for all of us to remember. And it comes up a lot when I talk to people about if you've never studied something before, if you were never taught something before, it's not your fault. Of course, you wouldn't know. And once you see it, it is your responsibility to take the action to gain that competency or learn more about that skill to put it into action. And I think that's, it's part of why this podcast even exists, for me to continue to have conversations that remind people of, if you didn't know something, you just didn't know it. You weren't taught it. You never studied it. I had a conversation with someone early on in the podcast. I believe it was Cindy Frechette. And she was saying, I remind myself as a new entrepreneur that if I was just to get an engineering job tomorrow, overnight, and tomorrow start doing it, I wouldn't know what to do because I've never studied it before. So she's like, so I use that metaphor a lot to remind myself that, oh, of course, like I don't know this. And part of what you're saying, adding to that layer of, and once we see it, it is our responsibility to take the action, to learn the skill, to find a mentor, whatever we need to do to be able to gain skill and gain competency and kind of raise the bar, raise our game. But we can't get paralyzed or stopped from the not knowing side. Like, it just is what it is. We don't know for whatever reason. We just don't know. It's not that big of a deal. And if we want to stay in the game of entrepreneurship, there are so many things we're going to have to learn. And so we need to be in action. And the best skill, based on my experience as an entrepreneur and also being a business strategist, is actually having the skill of discernment to understand, who should I be learning from? Where should I go seek the information? Like that, having the ability to ground and understand, like, who would be a good person to learn from. Like, that's maybe one of the most valuable skills as an entrepreneur, and the ability to seek out information and see, is this someone that's a good person to learn from? Like, do they have what I need? That curiosity, that mindset of, you and I were talking before we started the recording, of walking the walk. We need to stay in action. We need to be about it. Like, there is no other way to get around it but to be about it.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's that being humble enough to know that nobody knows it all. You don't need to know it all. There are people that have already gone through a similar path, and that it already exists. You just, like you said, you need to, okay, who would you like to learn from? Who's already done this? Who do I trust? In my case, it was like most of my coaches and mentors, they've all studied with the same people. So what did I do? Okay, so I'm going to study with the top, because they've been doing this for so long. I know they know what they're doing. And actually, I do feel connected to them because I feel like they're heart-led spirits, people, souls that actually I feel touched by what they do. And I feel the love. It's like, I need to feel the love. If I don't feel the love, it doesn't work for me. So those kind of people, sometimes, of course, that, you end up investing with different kinds of people. And it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's like, we also learn from those experiences where it's like, okay, this is not what I thought it would be, or I didn't really get that feeling, or okay, that's okay too, because still, once again, what did you get out of it? There's always something, always, no matter what experience you live in your life, there's always a gift and a blessing. And as long as you know how to just search, be aware that it's there, and it'll show up at the right moment. And it's going to make it worth it. Then for next time, you know better. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to trip again. It's like tripping, falling is part of life for everybody. Nobody can escape that. But you can get a greater view, or you can see things before time. And that only comes through experience. There are no shortcuts to that. It's like you need to go what you need to go through. So that's the only thing that teaches, experience itself.
Is there anything else that feels or has felt heavier than you thought it should be when it comes to entrepreneurship? Which, most of us, and I think you and I touched on this earlier, kind of stumble into accidentally because we've answered the call to service. And then all of a sudden, here we are, we're entrepreneurs, whether we really realize we were making that decision or not. A lot of us don't. Is there anything else that has felt heavier than it should on this path of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, actually, it's like, you know, when you've been on the journey and you've done big amount of work on yourself and you've gone deep and suddenly something happens that actually hits, in my case, it touched my ego. And this was when a few years ago, I was turning on, because I did this sort of like part-time for many years. And when I thought I was going 100%, okay, so I made my investment in a business coach, everything fell apart. My whole life fell apart. And I also had like personal things going on. So I felt like into a real deep pit, like dark night of the soul or period. It was a period. But that was actually one of the best things that could happen to me because you get to understand more about what this is all about. There's a part that you can see and there's a part that you don't see. And there's a great part that you don't see. That's the roots, the subconscious part, the program. And how do you know that? It's like, okay, once you know, I'm a firm believer of the law of attraction. You create your own reality. So when that happens, it's like, okay, you don't only create when it's fun things or things that you enjoy. The ones that you don't, you're also creating. So what created those experiences? So it's like going deeper and deeper. And from there is, okay, I thought I was this, but that's not me. That's just an identity that was linked to who I thought I was. So when you get to that point where you actually get to meet who you are and get rid and shed off all of the layers, that's when it starts getting real. And that's when the magic just starts showing up. And it doesn't mean that it's all like happy flower. No, it's not like that. Okay. It's a transforming process. It's like giving birth. Giving birth, it's not a fun experience. It's a beautiful experience, but it's beautiful because it involves breaking up and creating something new. Is like a tree. When a tree or a plant is born, it has to break through the earth. That happens. But what evolves from that is beauty. That is real life to be honored. So from that place or from that point onwards, then that's when it really begins. That when it's when it's really real. And that's what I can share.
Well, one of the things that people don't talk about nearly enough in the spiritual context of awakening and transformation, one of the things that will put us on a fast track is actually entrepreneurship. There are a few things that do, and entrepreneurship is one of them. And so if we're already people who are devoted and are committed to a path of working on ourselves and transformation, then we add entrepreneurship. It's like a double whammy of what you just talked about, like exactly what you just talked about, the shattering and the falling apart to come back together, the breakdowns followed by breakthroughs. And part of why that is the actual mechanics of it is it's all about beginnership and showing up to do something that you don't know if you can pull this off. So you're showing up over and over and over again in beginnership. And one of my earliest doorways into my holistic life was Buddhism. And I think that, and I haven't studied all religions, but one of the things that I appreciate about Buddhism is it talks a lot about, well, I think it does a good job at talking about the value of having a beginner's mind and showing up And when we look at what does create a air quotes master, just a master, not in the gross way, but just like someone living a masterful life, is always someone who was able and willing to show up as a beginner over and over and over again. Because in that experience, you're going to be having that breaking apart, that falling apart to gain the competency to produce a result that you weren't sure if you could produce, but you had the willingness to show up, get out of your comfort zone, and gain those skills. Like that is underneath and like a fundamental mechanism to transformation. And so a lot of people don't realize it, or they don't realize it fully, that entrepreneurship is one of the things that will absolutely put us on a fast track to transformation and evolution, on top of the fact that all of us in our world are already committed to that. And then we add in entrepreneurship, and it's this whole other level of, okay, time to go, time to wake up. Like, here we go.
I've been a teacher for many years. So I've always been a teacher because I love learning. And the best way to learn, once I had one of my belly dance teachers who shared that the best way to learn is teaching. So I can totally relate to that. And it's not like I'm the teacher and you're the student and I know more of you. No, I'm sorry, but it doesn't really work like that. It's like we've got different things that we can share and that we are together because we can grow together. And because it goes both ways. It's like just like the teacher shares, but your students are mirroring things back at you and helping you so you can also grow in the areas that you need to and figure out, okay, what's the best way for these kind of students, or I'm not the average or the typical student. So how are you going to teach me? And we need to be really creative also. So, and remember that it's an act of service. We are always serving each other both ways and being open to receive that. In parenthood is the same thing. It's like as a mother, because thank God I don't know where I had wisdom. We have the wisdom within us. And I just listened to it. So I didn't know why. I didn't try to rationalize. But when I started looking at my daughter as my teacher, one of my greatest teachers, she just had the eyes. When she was a little baby, she just had these wise eyes. And she sort of intimidated me also a little bit because I could see her soul and everything that was there. Without saying anything, she said everything. So learning from their behavior, how are they behaving? And then look at yourself. What are you doing like that? Are you complaining about something? How are you doing that in your life? And it's like, okay, your child seems very relaxed and you're all stressed out. What can you learn from your child? So many things, and that can be applied in every aspect of life, whether if it's parenthood, motherhood, in a relationship with a partner, in business, everything. We have mirrors everywhere. So it's like when you learn to accept that whatever you're living is just showing you something from yourself, and you just are open to receive and accept it and look within instead of blaming or looking for, yeah. Oh, just look at yourself. Look at yourself. Always look at yourself and receive the blessing that is there for you, whatever the lesson that you need to learn. Once you do that, then growth becomes better, easier, in a way, clearer.
Absolutely. Before we finish the conversation, I'm going to ask one last question. If it doesn't happen, if you're not able to get your work and your business to where you want to get it, what's the cost? What's the cost to you, to others, to the world?
This is a great question because for me, there's no other option. It's like when you're committed 100%, it's not about the business, it's about the people. And I don't have to be in a session or teaching some, that's the truth that I live with everything that I am. And when I leave my home, when I'm here at home alone with myself, that's how I live. I treat myself, I treat others, I in that way. And at the moment there's no excuse for not doing it. And it's, of course, I have my goals, but we can't always control the timing. And because I do believe in divine timing as well. So it's like I just keep on moving. I keep on moving. I have my vision, but if there is something better, greater, if that I am not aware of, it's okay. It's like I'm open to receive it in the best way and to give it in the best way that the world needs it, which is also in alignment for myself, of course. But yeah, it's about that. I don't need to control it all. I'm very aware of that. And this doesn't mean that you don't have your goals, for saying it in a way. I don't really use that word that much, but yeah, I have my vision of what I want and I just keep moving. Things keep happening. So it's about that. It's like, if it doesn't happen in that specific way, just keep moving. It'll happen in another way. And I'm a firm believer that actually things are always working out for everybody in the best way, in the best interest. So just trust that. Keep on going.
Jaishri, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Jaishri directly, the link to her link tree is in the show notes. Thank you again, Jaishri, and to everyone else, thank you for listening. And we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.